Hello, and welcome to the From Toxic to Healthy, Healthy Relationships Masterclass Series. I'm your host, Jen Youngquist, and today I'm speaking with self-love coach and healer, 𝗹𝗲Fortes. Amelia is here today to talk about why self-love is the foundation for healing from toxic situations. Welcome, Amelia, and thank you for being a part of this important conversation.
Thank you so much. It's such an important conversation, and I'm so glad that you're putting this out there for people.
So our topic is relationships, specifically toxic or unhealthy ones.
Yeah.
And I know you've had some experience with one yourself. Do you want to share a bit about that and what got you through it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, just reiterating, I'm so glad you're bringing this topic for people. And to those of you watching, whatever stage you're at in an unhealthy situation, we got you. Just keep watching these videos. I know there'll be a lot of really good information. And I know for me, when I was in my toxic situation, I wish that I knew to look for or even have videos like this. And so I promise I'm going to give some really good stuff, and it comes from a real authentic place, because I've been through a lot of different toxic and unhealthy situations. But the biggest one was, I'm not that old, almost more than 10 years ago, when I was in college. When I was 19 years old, I fell in love with this amazing, beautiful looking, charming boy. He looked like Ben Affleck, and, Ben Affleck was big at the time. And I was with him for probably 2, almost 3 years on and off because of the toxicity. And it was abusive. To this day, I'm still scared of him. When I think about him, this feeling I have in my body, I feel scared. And it was really mind-boggling to me, because at the time, I'm like a sassy, kind of independent kind of woman. I grew up in New York City. I consider myself strong. I consider myself outspoken. I consider myself, take no BS. And I was that. And so how did a woman like that end up in a situation where I felt really hopeless and powerless and scared? And the thing is I think people on the outside, or who have never been in that situation, just don't get it. And so for that, we feel really alone and isolated, which I did. But here's the thing, it starts off, they're charming. He was just really charming and said all the right things. And I'm 19. I was smart, but also 19. And it just was saying all the things that I needed. And little by little, I remember the first time that he called me a bitch. And I was like, no way. And we were just starting dating. And the next day at school, I walked up to him and I was just like, no way. No one talks to me like that. And so that was a part of me. But what I was not prepared for was the emotional gaslighting. So then he immediately got on his knees crying and begging and being like, what am I supposed to do? I'm so sorry. I had never experienced that before. And so I forgave him. And you can imagine those kinds of incidents over time compounded and compounded. And it went from calling me a bitch to eventually physically hurting me. And people don't understand how that process works. So, without going through all the gory details, of course, if you ever want to reach out to me and talk about the gory details, we can. But those of you in similar situations, you understand, right? So how does it go from that? And it just compounded until I felt like I had no escape. I isolated all my friends, or alienated all my friends, usually because of him. So I just was in a really, really dark place and in a really, really bad situation. And what got me through that was I found self-love. And I know that sounds kind of esoteric and okay, Amelia, what the heck does that mean? So I'm going to break it down, right? So, well, first of all, that gets you out of that relationship, right? And for everyone, it's going to be different. And so for me, it was distance, because the thing is, we went to the same school, so I couldn't really escape from him. Like I would try to stay at home, schedule. And so actually what saved me was I graduated before him. No, that's how I got out of it, because circumstance got me out of it. To me not have to see him as much. So for you watching this sense or reaching out to someone, just try to find ways, resources that can help you get out of it in a way that you feel safe. Gosh, I wish I remember the name of it, but there's this website that if you look up like what is abuse, I think you'll end up on that page, or you'll find that page, but it gives you, like, it breaks down like how to find a person or find a circumstance or find some get out of it. So that's how I remove myself from the situation.
Hey, Amelia?
But, yeah.
Your video keeps freezing. Can you say what that resource was again?
Okay. The name of the website, but if you Google, you know, what is domestic abuse or what is domestic violence, you'll come to, like, it's an organizational page. So or like, how do I identify what is abuse? Because you'll get to their page that actually, it was really helpful for me even 10 plus years later to read the signs of what abuse is. Because the thing is, we get stuck and it gets compounded because we don't realize it's abuse. And it really lists out like emotional, sexual, physical, financial, mental, intellectual, psychological, like it lists examples. And oh my gosh, when I found this website like months ago, so this is like 10 plus years later, and it helped heal so much still. So if you just Google like how do I know if I'm in an abusive situation, you can probably find it. Just find a person that you really trust, and also like yourself. The other thing is too is I found dance. Dance is a thing that I love, so a hobby that I love, and I immersed my painting or dancing or working out or hiking. You know, find a way to like be connected to like a network outside of you that can pull you back into something that, depending on how toxic your situation is, I don't know how easy that may or may not be, but little by little, just try to work your way towards that and get some help. So for me, right after I graduated, I got invited to audition. So I just got so immersed in this whole new group of people, but mostly it wasn't even about the people. It was about me reconnecting with myself and something that I loved. And now I make the connection that it was self-love enough to still continue doing something that brought me so much joy. And that helped me find that person who I was before him. And it you know, it didn't happen overnight. It happens over time. And so self-love is also about being patient with yourself and having compassion with yourself, that you will find that back. Because here's the thing, like, you're still alive, you're still here. I know it might be still here, and just anchoring onto what little bit of sunshine you have left. I actually wrote a poem about like Little Miss Sunshine, and at the end it started off like she's in the darkness, but at the end of it, I like held on to that very tiny ray of light, and I held on to it and I followed it until it glowed brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. And yeah, and now I have a whole company that's all about self-love. I mean, that relationship actually built the foundation. So, you know, hindsight is 2020. I actually, it sounds weird to say, but I'm somewhat grateful for having been through that situation, because I wouldn't be as strong as I am today, and I wouldn't have the wisdom and other people from a real place that I have now. So yeah.
Nice. So just to recap a little bit, because your video freezes a little bit here and there. I just want to make sure that we understand the whole arc of your journey here. So you met this person that ended up kind of tearing you down, and your nervous system basically just got used to more and more and more abuse, and that became your new normal. And so you knew it was awful and it didn't feel good. Yeah. But on the other hand, you'd been torn down so much that you weren't really sure what to do with it. And you kind of lost who you were. You lost touch with the person that you were beforehand, the strong, beautiful woman that, you know, wasn't going to take any crap from anyone, you know, suddenly is being abused. And, yes, you know, it was just something that happened gradually over time and eroded your own self-esteem. So in order for you to get that back, you had to go on that journey to rediscover who you were. Yeah. To, you know, start to take care of yourself and, yeah, you know, do things that you love. And then that eventually gave you the courage to be able to get yourself out of the situation. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that it's holding on to that little ray of sunshine that's left, because it's still there. Like especially if you're here and you're watching this video, it's still there, regardless of where you're at in this moment or how impossible it feels. If you're able to watch this video, you're really in a good place, because there is that piece left, and you just got to keep holding on to that, and little by little, and stronger and stronger and stronger. So for me, it was like through my friends and through dance and through finding myself again, something that I really loved, and doing that. So even if you're in a situation where you love to draw or color, and just like find that few minutes a day, and few minutes will become longer and longer. And there will be answers that come forward either from inside of you or site, or you'll see something on Instagram that will keep sparking that. And that's what I mean by like, hold on to that little bit, because it will attract more things that will help your light get brighter, and eventually like get.
Yeah, so eventually you push out that darkness.
Yes,
by
with the light.
Expanding that light. And really that light is getting yourself back. You know, it's really, you know, how your nervous system became used to that normal of being abused. Now you have to bring it back so that it gets used to, you know, what used to be your normal, you know, yeah, to get yourself back.
Like that normal of feeling the journey with every dance class and dance practice that I went to. It was slowly bringing back that joy, and then I got used to that joy. So like, even if it's reading, like finding a novel or the kind of books that especially if you're feeling stuck in a situation, I'm sure you could, like, while they're sleeping, you can like read something and or follow inspirational people online that bring that back, and it will attract solutions. It will. Like, there's no way that it won't. Right. I mean, you've been attracted to this solution, right? So.
So you do a lot of work with people in relationships and helping them to rediscover that self-love. What's your special sauce in that? So what's your approach? How do you work with people?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. So again, aside from like finding something that you can do on your own, you can look up stuff online, resources online. Those are things you can do on your own. However, I'm a firm believer that healing happens best through community and through other people. Like, I've got my squad of healers, okay? Like, I'm a healer, I'm a coach. I also have healers and coaches that I go to help me. So it's from a very authentic place. Like, I'm not just here like trying to sell a product or anything. That it is important to have someone that's like not a friend and not a family member to support you through some of the tougher things. Hands down, I believe that, because you might have friends that have really good a container of friendship, it's a totally different vibe, right? Like, even if you have a friend who's a doctor, like, wouldn't you rather like go to a doctor at the doctor's office? You know what I mean? Like, have this special separate container that truly to process some things, to think things through, and to do some healing, and to get some really solid advice and strategies and next steps for yourself. Like, I think hands down, you know, I have amazing friends, but friendship is friendship. And like my coaching relationship, my healer relationships, those are different. So, you know, and what I would say with that too is, if you're looking for a healer, there's a lot of them out there. Definitely choose someone that you would feel safe with, that you would vibe with. So the people that I work with, you know, they feel really good with me. I feel really good with them. It's a relationship like any other. So it's people who vibe really well with me. I work really well with people who are like, they're strong, and they're aware, and they're conscious, and but they know that there's like a little something missing, and they need a little help, like looking in the rear view mirror, or they need a little bit help because they know that they have blind spots, and they're just ready. They're ready to open up to it. They're ready to look at that stuff. Because the thing is, being in a toxic situation, like, you've got to look at some dark stuff, and how awful my ex is. You know, I can demonize him if I want. I attracted that situation because, or I chose that situation, let's say, because there was some dark stuff, right? So you need to be willing to look at the people that work with me are wanting to look at that darkness, wanting to look at those things, wanting to be challenged with love, with fierce, fierce love always. And they're ready. Expansion, because the thing is, I work with people on all levels. So not just your mind. I'm not just going to like talk to you. We're going to go into the deep, right? We're going to go into the soul. We're going to go into the body. We're going to go into the subconscious mind. So I work with all of these. If we just work at it from the mind, you know, some of those seeds are still there. Some of those hooks are still there. So I work with various healing and coaching modalities that I've been trained in over the last to really start to unhook and untether people from what's holding them onto these toxic situations, and not just romantic relationship. If it's in romantic relationships, it's also in family. It's also in friendship, at work. Like, we choose toxic situations. Energetic, spiritual, physical hooks attracting us and calling those things to us that, you know, it's of no fault to you. But it's just something that needs to be looked. It's kind of like, you know, if you need someone to help you with your zipper, you can take some pliers and maybe like stretch and get it done. But it's so much easier to be like, hey, like, I'm having trouble with my zipper. Can you see what's going on? And then the other person can just be like, oh, it's caught in your hair, or it's caught into this piece of cloth that you wouldn't have been able to see. And so it's that's how I work, right? It's like, it's fully capable, strong people, but you're kind of like, there's something going on with my zipper. And I'm like, oh, it's this here. This is what so that's really essentially what I do. I help you get your zipper on and off, because I can see like what's stuck, in a very non-painful, gentle, loving way. Because here's the thing too that I definitely want to name is, when we're in a toxic situation, as awful as the toxic people are, one of the biggest perpetrators of our pain is the pain we're inflicting on ourselves. And that's absolutely, like, I was hurting myself more than he was, because I was shaming myself for making the choice to even be in that relationship. Love, fierce self-love, compassion. And you can do that for yourself, absolutely. I have tons of resources on my website for that, but it's so much better when you work with someone else to do it. So yeah, those are the things that I do. I work really deeply one-on-one and in groups, because this community happens, is really, really helpful as well. So I do private work as well as group work to kind of unhook all those things.
Yeah, and that's a great point you make. I think that shame a lot of times keeps us stuck, you know, in relationships. It keeps us stuck in our muck, you know, that we sometimes have shame about that shadow piece of us too, that we're so afraid to go and take a look at. And I think it's an important part to heal, because that is part of what is, because if you haven't healed that shadow part, that's what's going to start attracting people to you.
More of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the shame, like the shame that keeps us in the muck, because you know how we were saying, like, compounded over time, we subconsciously start convincing ourselves that we deserve it. And then, you know, that's kind of how I think, like, on the extreme end, like, it turns into Stockholm syndrome, where it's like, oh no, this is normal. Right. And everyone on the outside is like, what the heck? And even there's a part of you even that's probably like, what the heck? But yeah, it's like we convince ourselves that we deserve it. We convince ourselves that this is normal. That shame is like really, really debilitating in that way. And, you know, really one of the best ways to heal shame absolutely is with someone, a professional who can help you. Because you know, I've tried to do it on my own, and it's just much better with another person.
Yes. So that's kind of been my journey as well. I was a do-it-yourselfer, and it took
DIY self-love.
Yeah, it took me about 20 years to really come to the point that I am in my life. You know, I just got married last year, and I'm 45. You know what I mean?
Congratulations. I love that. That's so inspirational. Yeah.
But I was so stubborn, and it was like my ego talking, like, no, I got this, I can handle it, I can deal with it. There's, you know, I didn't want to believe that, you know, all of this stuff that I had underneath was attracting these people to me. For some reason, I would rather believe that I just was unlovable, I wasn't partner material, rather than to take a look at that. And, you know, I don't know if you have any advice for people that are sitting in that right now, but all I can say is that, man, looking back, I wish I would have done it sooner, because there are years there that I spent unhappy, and we don't have a lot of time to waste on that.
Yeah, not everyone has the luxury of that time, you know. You know, well, I think if you're watching this video, I think you're, you know, in a place where you're seeking answers, right? But if you're feeling kind of stuck, I think just knowing that the shame might be at play, and that shame can trick you into thinking, oh, I'll just wait it out, or I'll just have to, you know, I'll just take the time, or I don't need to hire a healer or a coach or anything. Like, I'm gonna just read some books. I'm gonna just do some podcasts. And here's what I say. We learn, and I know you know this too, Jen, but like, we learn about relationships through having relationships. And so I don't know anyone that learned how to ride a bike from listening to a podcast. I don't know anything a book. You know, you have to like try it, you get on the bike and you kind of figure out the balance. And like, really, like that's that coaches and healers do, at least, you know, good ones, because there's good ones, there's bad ones, there's not, you know, is like for me, for example, if I'm working with a single person who really wants partnership, healthy, loving partnership, then I will take them from single through that. And the people that work with me for a long time, it's like, it doesn't stop when you get a couple dates, or it doesn't stop when you get a boyfriend. Like, the people that have been working with me for a long time, it's like, okay, now you have a boyfriend, or now you have a partner. Now it's time for the real deal. And I know you know this, you know, you're married now. It's like, okay, now here's the big girl train, the big girl bike, you know? And so a lot of times singles think like, oh, I just need the title, or I just need the partnership. And it's like, no, we all, I believe, need that coach or that person or those people. Like I said, I have several people that I go to, because just like with friends, right? You know, you have the friend that you go shopping with and get your nails done with. And then you have the friend that you go to for like all the advice about career because they're like a career person. So it's kind of like, for me, I have that, like I have different healers and coaches that I go to for different things. And, you know, so for me, like I'm like the relationship person, you know, and so we come up with a dating plan. We unhook, we heal all of those things. We look at those shadows. We look to see what's really there, because again, people that work with me and people watching this, all of you watching this, you're smart, capable people. But if reading a book or watching a video or listening to a podcast would have gotten you there, you would have been there already. You know, so it has, I think people are stuck because they think, no, if I succumb to that, then that means I'm admitting that I wasn't smart enough or good enough to figure it out myself. And I'm saying that's not true. Like, you are smart enough, you are good enough, but you just got, like, your zipper's just stuck in the back. And even if you have a mirror, you just need someone else to come in and like take out that little piece of cloth that's stuck in there. You know what I mean? And so it has nothing to do with smart enough or good enough. I think that's the main thing that keeps people, that's what kept me stuck. I'm imagining maybe that's what kept you there, because it's like, if I get this help or if I look at this, then that means I'm like admitting that I'm not smart enough on my own. But not at all. There's no shame in asking for help to deal with your emotions, to deal with your entanglements, to deal with shadow stuff, to deal with toxic situations. There's no shame at all.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That is what kept me there. It was shame,
me too.
You know, the ego that says, no, you can do it. You've always gotten through. You can do this on your own. And like I said, it just took me way longer than it should have. And all those years I missed out, I could have been enjoying a healthy relationship and love.
So don't wait. Those of you watching, don't wait.
Yes. So I want to wrap up with your interesting healing modalities. You want to tell people, you know, some of the interesting things that you do to help people heal?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very deeply trained in shamanism and in hypnotherapy and working with the subconscious mind and various energy healing modalities. I studied at the Hypnosis Motivation Institute. I've gone to mystery school. So I'm very in that like spiritual world. And I also train with a lot of people that work with the body and moving the body. So I incorporate all of my training and into like my own special sauce of self-love healing. And the reason why I love all of those things is because I think, again, back to like, oh, I can just read a book or listen to a podcast. A lot of times, most of those things only help the mind. And for any of you watching or a human being on planet, like, again, you can think about riding a bike, but then there's actually riding the bike, right? So it has to go beyond the mind. It has to also go to the heart, the emotion center, the body, the spirit, the soul. Like, you have to feel it. Like, it's one thing to be like, yeah, I love myself. And it's another thing to like feel it in your body. Like, I love myself, you know? So that's why all the modalities that I do touch all those levels, right? The subconscious mind, the energy side of it. I work a lot with the body for people because I feel like wherever you're blocked out in the world can be directly translated to a place that you're blocked in your body. Whether it's like a heaviness you feel in your heart or like a wrenching feeling you feel in your stomach, right? So I work through all those levels, and that's really what gets people out of their situations and out of their stuckness and into a whole other normal, right? We talked about that old normal and then the new normal, and that normal even goes beyond the normal before the toxic situation. So it's really, really important to work with all these areas. And, you know, I've gone through a lot of different coaches, and yes, some of them are like only the mind, or some of them are only the heart or only the body. But I believe like we need to work with all the things in order to have that like 360-degree healing. And it's really, really powerful, and it's long lasting transformation. Like, there's a difference between like a little bit of a breakthrough and like, oh, okay, versus like, oh, this is permanent now. I actually was talking to a client the other day, or actually no, yesterday they were messaging me because they're just like, oh my God, like it's a whole new normal. Like they're attracting just different men into their lives now, into their life now. They're like, oh my gosh, I met this guy and this and that, and I would have never even thought this person was possible, but now this person has come into their field. And I'm like, yeah, that's because your energy is vibrating at a match to what you say you want. And if you're not getting what you want, then somehow you're not matching that frequency. Like I use the metaphor of like a radio. Like you're not, if you want to listen to hip hop, you got to turn to a certain station. You can't be, I want hip hop, but like turned to the classical station or the heavy metal station. It just doesn't, the frequency doesn't match, right? So the work that I do is about getting your frequency a match on mind, body, spirit, and heart to what you want. And it's very gentle and beautiful. And like, you know, I'm all about self-love and compassion and gentleness. You know, other people are a little bit more like, you know, I'm not really like that. Only if you want me to be, you know, in the right moments.
Yeah. Well, I've done a little bit of energy healing myself and studied it. And I think that once you know, we're energetic beings, right? We have this, just like we have a circulatory system for blood, we have a circulatory system for our energy as well.
100%.
And when there's a blockage there, or when things are out of balance, it can also make us least receptive to, you know, learning and to, you know, being able to heal ourselves. It can really kind of put like a blanket over that, to where it makes it harder for you to actually heal and, you know, bring up the courage to take the action that you need to. So keeping that in your body's energy in tune, you know, perfect tune up, you know, will help to facilitate, you know, healing in people. And that's part of what you do too as well. Right?
Exactly. And my favorite thing to like show people is like, you might think like, let's say you're single and you're ready. Maybe you got out of your toxic situation and like you're going to the bar, or, well, I mean, hopefully we won't still be in quarantine by the time this video comes out, but, or like even not the bar, even if it's online, you can think in your mind, like, I'm open. But what you're really doing is this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're like, hey, I'm open for love. And people can energetically feel you, even if it's online. So you can be like, oh, I'm totally open for a relationship. But they're like, isn't that awkward? Like hearing me talk like this?
Yes.
And people can feel that. And you can feel that from other people too. Like I feel it all the time where people are like, yeah, I'm open and I'm cool with this. And like something in my belly or in my heart, I'm like, I don't think you are, you know? And again, that has nothing to do with how good the person is or how smart they are. It's just, like you said, the nervous system, there's just an energetic block there. And sometimes you just need someone to be like, your hands are in your face. And then they take them out of your face and you're like, oh. So that's kind of how it feels. Like when you work with me, it's like, oh, I didn't even know that my hands were in my face.
That was totally me for years. Whenever I went out, you know, I never got hit on, you know, and I didn't understand why. I thought it's just because I wasn't as attractive as all the people around me.
Which is absolutely not true. You're stunning.
Thank you.
You're
but
welcome.
I just didn't realize that, you know, by not projecting that I was open, right?
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't making eye contact with people. I was like, you know, bringing the energy all down in, you know, but now, because I'm aware of that, when I go out into, you know, just like a networking event, you know, I was never the kind of person that anyone would pay any attention to. I was always like the little mouse in the corner, right? Mm-hmm. Well, now when I go out and I walk up to a group, everybody stops and they will stop and listen to me, and they will ask me questions, and I'm like, what is going on? You know, so
you took your hands out of your face.
Exactly what happened. And it's been a complete 180 from, you know, how I used to be. And it's awesome, you know, and I really want to share that with people that, you know, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, and here you are like hosting this amazing event that's like bringing that knowledge to other people, because you're like, dude, this is the good stuff. Like, it's, you know, I had no idea that I was like this, and now I'm like this. So yeah, I love it. I love it.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Emilia, for sharing your wisdom with us today. Do you want to tell people where they can find you and if you have anything coming up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Like, it's a lot of work. Like, y'all watching this video, like, give it up for Jen. Putting something like this together is a lot of work. So thank you for putting this together, for reaching out and doing all the work behind the scenes that it takes to even deliver something this awesome. So thank you for choosing me to be someone on that. I always take these opportunities as such a privilege and such an honor. So thank you. And yeah, if you, again, like I said, if you're looking for someone to support you through some of the stuff you're going through, shop around, right? Don't just like latch onto the first person that sounds good. Really shop around and find someone that you vibe with, that you really like their energy, and you're like, I think I can really gel with them. I think I can feel safe with them. So like, if you're liking my vibe and you want to follow my stuff, I have tons and tons of content out there. So you can just go to my website, 𝗹𝗲𝐹𝗀𝗃𝗂𝗃.com, and I have a podcast, a blog, videos. There's tons of content there, and you can join my list to get amazing self-love tips in your inbox. And I'm also on Instagram as 𝗹𝗲𝐹𝗀𝗃𝗂𝗁, and I'm on Facebook, 𝗹𝗲𝐹𝗀𝗃𝗂𝗁. So I'm everywhere. And I also, if you want to download a special gift that I have for you all for joining this amazing event and listening to all these wonderful speakers, you can download that at, well, I think you have the link, right, Jen? You'll give them the link.
Putting the link below the videos here. Yep.
Okay, yeah, and it'll be on my website as well, but there'll be like a direct link on this video, and it's basically a beautifully designed 22-page self-love activation guide for singles seeking partnership. However, you don't have to be single. Like, the concepts in there, I've been studying relationships and love since I was like 3 years old. It's just been it's just part of me. I love seeing how people interact. And so for the last 30 years, 30 plus years, 3 years old, yeah, 30 plus years, I've been studying love and relationships, and I've distilled it down to the 5 deceptions that trip us up. And absolutely every single one of my clients, at least half of these deceptions, usually all of them, these are the 5 deceptions. I've figured them out, and I've explained what they are, and I've also explained how to get over them, or the medicine that you need to like get through these deceptions in detail in there. And what I would say is, don't just download it, read it, print it out even if you can. And what I would say is really read it and highlight the things that really resonate with you and why, and even like journal a little bit about it. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me about it. Because here's the thing, like I said, you can read a 22-page guide, but actually being taught how to take yourself through these deceptions and away from them and work with them and experience them is different than reading about it. So that's like homework for you. Don't just download it and let it sit in your inbox. Like, actually read it and highlight it and have questions, because that's how it'll start to stir up inside of you. Whether you ever work with me or not, it'll move some things in you.
Sounds wonderful. And
yeah,
definitely go down there and pick that up. Well, thank you so much, Emilia, for being part of this important conversation. And I hope that we can chat with you again in the future.
Of course. Thank you so much, Jen. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.